we have these same fiery debates about climate change every summer now when we witness more wildfires and heat waves around the world. But yes, I know, it's pouring with rain in the UK at the moment. It feels more like autumn, so global warming isn't real. And what about those historical weather patterns and El Nino, those charts people can point to reassure themselves this is all hokum and par for the course? Because who really wants to believe that we're making the planet uninhabitable through our actions when top scientists have been warning us for years about the danger of burning fossil fuels into the atmosphere? Because it doesn't feel nice, does it, to admit that? It's scary, quite frankly, and it means we're all somehow at fault for driving cars, for taking planes and eating intensively farmed food. And we're all just trying to live a nice life, aren't we? We're only here for a short time, and things were seemingly fine up until a few years ago. Some people are struggling to pay rent now. There's a housing crisis, and the cost of basic food items is going through the roof. So it's easier to just call the net zero stuff bogus or a scam or even a conspiracy to control the way we live. But I am not here to insult your intelligence like that. I know, you know, there is a difference between global climate change and the daily weather patterns here in Britain. And I know a lot of you actually care about it, even if just for a little bit. Here in Britain, I think we're generally pretty good at doing our part, taking out the recycling, listening to scientists, doing what we can to help others. And it's not like we're in control of a lot of this stuff either. It's the private companies we buy the stuff from and the politicians we vote into power. Recent polling actually showing a majority of Conservative voters considering switching to Labour think that Rishi Sunak has not done enough to tackle climate change. And as if to double down, today, Prime Minister Sunak announcing more than 100 new drilling licences for oil and gas in the North Sea, a huge investment into fossil fuels at a time when other countries are turning away. The thing is, I think most of us want to keep taking planes to go on holiday, don't we? To escape this wet little island we call home. And trust me included, I just came back from a holiday. We want to keep driving our much-loved cars. And I think that's where a lot of this debate comes from. We feel attacked for our choices. So we look for a narrative that makes us feel better. And I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to make you feel better or make you feel worse about those choices. I'm in exactly the same boat as you. I just think we need to find a way to live with all this while not choosing to be stupid because we don't like the truth. If we can have some calm analysis of the facts without hysteria from either side, whether it be Just Stop Oil or the anti-net zero brigade, if we can all just stop attacking each other for the decisions we make, then we can all be better informed, make the choices we want based on that information, and keep an eye on the future we're leaving behind. And I think we would all appreciate that. So what will Britain's legacy be in this debate? And is the government now moving backwards in its approach to tackling climate change? I know what I think. Let's see what these people think. I'm joined by Associate Editor of The Mirror, Kevin Maguire, Harry Wilkinson, Head of Policy at Net Zero Watch, and Just Stop Oil protester Alex de Koning joining us from down the line. Alex, as you're there, I'll start with you. Just talk to me a little bit about what you thought when you heard this government announcement today about these 100 or so licences for drilling in the North Sea.
Well, first of all, Rosanna, thank you for having me on the show, and I really loved your introduction. You got so many things right. You're right, the everyday person doesn't want to, give up their cars, give up their planes, and we're not asking people to. Ultimately, the responsibility shouldn't be on the everyday person. It should be on the government, who are betraying us by opening up these over 100 new oil and gas licenses. I was livid when I saw that. This is a direct, almost act of war against the young people and the people in the global south who are going to suffer first from the climate crisis. As you say, we've seen the wildfires. We've seen 40-degree weather in the UK. We know it's going to keep getting worse and worse. It's about time that we started trying to do something in order to stop it from happening. We need to stop all new oil and gas, in line with what Lord Debon, the former head of the Climate Change Committee, has said before he retired because Rishi Sunak wasn't doing his part, in line with what the Cross-Parliamentary Environmental Committee said, in line with what the UN is saying, the International Energy Agency. This is not a party issue. We all want a livable future, and we should be striving for that. We should be working together against the government who are now pushing through these frankly criminal policies.
Alex, thank you. I want to come back to you and talk about the role that Just Stop Oil has played in this debate. Obviously, you're speaking on behalf of them today. So we'll come back to that. But I want to come to Harry in the studio now and just talk about net zero as a term. You work for Net Zero Watch. It's a sort of policy group. And do you think it's all hokum? It's all bogus?
No, absolutely not. We should be concerned about climate change, but we should have policies that protect people's lives, that mean that they can still do the things that they've been used to doing at an affordable price. I think Rishi Sunak was quite right to say today that net zero shouldn't mean banning things. It shouldn't mean an unfair cost burden. And that's what we believe in. And I think it's right that he's finally woken up to this. The political class, just for too long, hasn't actually been dealing with the cost of net zero. They've been talking about ambition, they've been talking about what can we do to tackle climate change, but they haven't been thinking about the costs. There's now more of a cost to that. And when it comes to the licenses for oil and gas in the North Sea, we have to make a choice. Do we want this oil and gas to come from Russia, Qatar? Do we want it to come from domestic sources? We still rely on 75% of our energy needs come from fossil fuels. So if we say no to our own supplies, it just means bringing it in from elsewhere.
Yeah, Harry, I can get behind the supply security point of view here. Kevin, I'll come to you on this because, you know, it's easy for us to understand now since the recent war in Ukraine and what we saw happen to energy prices. And we know we need to generate more energy from the United Kingdom, so we don't need to import it all in. I can buy that argument. What I necessarily can't buy is that it should be fossil fuels.
No, well, Harry's group is hostile to measures and the net zero target. So it's not just an independent research organisation. And questions have been raised about the funding and who funds the commercial interests funding that. No, there is an issue of energy security. In fact, the government, Rishi Sunak, set up a Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. You can see which comes first, where his emphasis is. And we, at the moment, import about 40% of our oil, 47% of our gas. But we don't control what comes out of the North Sea. In fact, Greg Hand's a former energy minister who is now chair of the Tory party, saying more gas coming out won't reduce your bill because it just goes into
on the international energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not as if it's nationalised. Now, what's wrong here, I think, with Sunak, and most of those 100 licences won't produce a drop of oil or a whiff of gas. They will just fail. The North Sea itself is actually pretty pumped out now. There's very little left because we've been extracted for so long. But what he's basically saying is he's going to be a fossil fool. He's going to be a prime minister sticking with fossil fuels rather than try to make that jump to renewables and, for instance, wind turbines on land, the cheapest, most secure form of electricity. And yet the Tory party is full of NIMBYs who just oppose that. This is where he's getting it wrong. This is before you even think about saving the planet. You're just thinking about your own energy bill. Harry talks about cost. Well, if we're going to have cost, we'd have more wind turbines. We wouldn't be drilling in the North Sea.
Harry, I'll give you a chance, but Alex, I know you wanted to join in there as you were listening to Kevin. I also want to talk just generally about this being a political move, because obviously the current government want to stay in power and they think this is going to be the way forward because, and some would say this, that the actions of organisations like Just Stop Oil have politicised this debate so much and caused some people to turn against the climate change cause. So the government are riding off the back of this basically and pursuing this huge fossil fuel policy.
Well, no, I don't think that it's Just Stop Oil that has been politicising this issue. I think the government are deliberately trying to politicise it themselves. But I think that tide will turn when people realise that it takes an average of 28 years to get oil and gas from the North Sea after granting a licence. 28 years. We cannot wait 28 years. We all know how bad the climate crisis is right now. We've seen the wildfires in roads. We've seen the orange skies in New York. We've seen how high our energy bills are. We simply cannot wait 28 years. And I think once people have realised that they're being lied to by this government, they're going to be furious. And they too are going to start coming onto the streets and joining other groups like Just Stop Oil, like Extinction Rebellion. Are they going to vote Labour? Are they going to do whatever they can? Because honestly, it's a farce. They're subsidising millions and millions of pounds into North Sea oil and gas, even though, as one of the guests has correctly said, onshore wind is by far the cheapest form of energy and is being banned right now.
Harry, I want to come to you on the sort of the business and the political rationale for this, because there has been some reception internationally today of this, of the Britain's decision to do this and Sunak's government decision, that it's not the right direction to be moving in for investment in the future of the United Kingdom. It's obviously not the right decision for climate change worldwide. No doubt about that, because it's fossil fuels. But it just proves that it's we're a country trapped in the past. We're still trying to generate fossil fuel jobs.
Absolutely not. It shows we're being realistic about our energy needs. There are plenty of other countries that are looking at their own energy supplies. It's not an either or. It doesn't stop us looking into renewables if we make sure that North Sea oil and gas can still be exploited. And we have to remember there's 200,000 plus jobs, mainly in Scotland, that are dependent on this industry. Do we just want to let them see those jobs go? Or do we actually want to give time for people to reskill and to have a productive economy? If Britain does net zero expensively, who is going to want to copy us? You look at America's approach that many people have been saying that we should copy, of subsidizing all of these green industries. But the developing world can't do that. You know, they can't afford these huge subsidies. If we want to promote an approach that other countries can copy, it has to be based off competition. We have to discover the most reliable green technologies by allowing them to compete against each other.
Yeah, reliable green technologies. I'm with you on that. Absolutely. Kevin, wouldn't you rather see this type of investment and job creation in hydrogen capture, carbon capture rather, hydrogen and renewables?
Yeah, well, carbon capture is promoted by the oil and gas companies to try and keep themselves in business. We would still be literally burning the planet, digging it out and burning it, which is what we've been doing for centuries. And that 1.5 target, which scientists say the Earth heats up by 1.5% compared to pre-industrial levels, you'll get these massive weather changes, which you'll either have drought or you'll have floods, you'll have storms. Well, we're about 1.2% already there. Look, we're about 80% of the way of that target. It might be exceeded. Now, the way to invest is in renewables and nuclear power. That is the way. Now, there's problems with waste nuclear power. I won't deny that, but you get a great big base load. We've just got to stop this idea of being hooked on fossil fuels. I mean, look, we got to move with the future. We can't be in the dinosaur age forever.
Yeah, Alex, I want to give you the last word on this because you've joined us outside of the studio this evening. But net zero is becoming a really, some would argue, toxic term because of the way that it's been characterised currently in the media and part of the debate. How do you turn the ship around?
Well, we don't need the term net zero. Net zero is commonly associated with net zero by 2050. 2050 is too late to do any action. We all know that 27 years from now is too late. So we need to be talking about renewables. We need to be talking about the cleaner air we can get from that, the lower energy bills. We need to be talking about insulation and the warmer homes we can have, and the cheaper public transport that's going to help people take trains as opposed to drive as often. We need to be talking about a positive vision of the future and not promoting these lies about North Sea oil and gas. We don't need it. It's as simple as that. There's no economic reason. There's no moral reason. Let's just move on with the debate. Look, Just Stop Oil are going to stop the disruption as soon as all these North Sea oil and gas licenses stop. And we all want the same thing. So let's all pressure the government in order to make sure this stops. And then Just Stop Oil can stop and we can all go on with our days and live happy lives. Doesn't that sound better?
Alex, can you admit, though, that Just Stop Oil isn't the most popular organisation in the UK? I mean, what's next for you guys? How are you going to turn that ship around?
Well, this isn't about popularity. Rishi Sunak isn't popular. I think we're actually even more popular than Rishi Sunak at the moment. So a lot of history has shown that social movements don't need to be popular to make change. But we're really trying to make the connection between oil and gas and the climate events that we're seeing now. And we're trying to highlight the hypocrisy that Rishi Sunak is making all these lies. So, yeah, we're going to keep doing what we're doing because it is working. Every other major political party has said no new oil and gas, and it's really starting to help turn the tide.
Harry, Alex, Kevin, thank you all very much for joining me. Really interesting debate.